The Fueled by Death guest.
So, what was it like to be a part and run the Cathouse during the heyday in the I guess that's the 90s, right?
No, it was the late 80s.
Oh, nice.
Late 80s. And the thing about the Cathouse is, you got to understand, when I started this club with Tammy, these people weren't signed. Guns N' Roses weren't a huge band. I mean, they were doing really good in the clubs and all these bands. So this was unheard of. I was actually a club DJ that would play dance music, and I used to scratch and do all that stuff. And I even was the DJ of Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear's wedding.
Oh wow!
And that's kind of when I was playing rock and roll. I'm like, man, what if we had a rock and roll dance club? Like, it was going to be a rock and roll dance club. There weren't going to be bands playing. That was the whole purpose. Just a rock and roll dance club that all the misfits would have a safe place to hang out at.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, people don't understand that the LA rock scene was not as much the Warrants and the, like our scene was more East Hollywood kind of, and it was more like dirty, dingy. We call it gypsy junkie. Like, if you put the Faster Pussycat and the LA Guns and the Guns N' Roses next to a lot of the, other like poofy hair strip, were not the same. We were more dangerous. Even though eventually those bands did come to the Cathouse and did play the Cathouse, some of them, but we were dangerous. So as all my bands were getting record deals, they weren't my band. As all my friends were getting record deals and starting to get popular, I decided, hey, I'm going to take this little club that we started, and we had a DJ, Joseph Brooks, who had like a record store called Vinyl Fetish, and he was like he was a huge part of the success. And then we just, as they started getting bigger, I became more focused on trying to make the club bigger, because it was a bomb when it first started. It just was terrible, and I kept on trying. But like the people, like there'd be like 8 people there, and there'd be Axl Rose dancing on the floor, doing his little dance, because that's what he did. Axl just like us, and
we had a guy on, Rob Fenn, rock photographer actually, and one of the quotes that he said was, "If you ever want to lose a bunch of money, you start a nightclub," and that's what you're kind of talking about. Is like, when you started out, it was tough to even get people through the door.
However, so people know, I did not own the building.
Right.
What I did was, I went in there, and I'm a hustler. I've always been a hustler. I went in there with no money, in a cheap apartment with Tammy from Fast Pussycat as my roommate, and driving a car that I didn't realize was pretty much stolen, that got repossessed. I mean, I didn't have any money, and I went to this nightclub that was dilapidated. It was a disco that was used in the movie Thank God It's Friday.
Okay.
In Beverly Hills, called Osco's. Cathouse was only there for about 11 months, and I convinced this guy, look, let me come into this club and basically just let me keep the door, and you guys keep the bar. And he was like, okay, well, we're thinking about bringing, this is my friend, I don't know what his name was, John or something, and he's got this product that we want to promote at the grand opening. Have you heard about this stuff? It's called liquid methadone. I'm like, liquid methadone? He's like, well, that's what they're calling it, and it gives you this euphoric high, and we really want to promote that liquor the first night. So we'll serve it and let people talk about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. It ended up being Jägermeister.
Oh,
Jägermeister was
I was
what the
about
bar
to say,
was.
How come I have never heard of
People
this
don't
stuff
even
before?
like. That's a story that people don't really know about. And so the first night, we were telling our friends. Tammy would tell like some strippers, and they would go. And then because to kind of speed it forward, because we had, without a doubt, there's not one person that will ever deny this, Cathouse had, without a doubt, the most beautiful women of any nightclub, period.
Nice.
And we didn't do ladies' night or this night. They just went there. And then the rock stars started going there because the girls were there. And then more girls started going there because the rock stars were there. And we had, even when we weren't crowded, we had Steven Tyler there.
Yeah.
And the deal was, I would never let cameras inside the club.
Right. Yeah, that's the...
Which bit me in the ass now. But I would never let cameras in the club, so there's not a lot of proof of, which is probably good, of what went down there, because there was a lot of decadence. Without a fact, we were the most debaucherous, decadent club. Without ever saying that we are,
right.
We just ended up being that way. There was a real sense of danger. I mean, Malcolm Forbes came to our club.
Wow.
And it was
these people probably felt more comfortable, though, because they knew they could walk in and pretty much be however they want to be, and there's no record of it.
Yeah, it's like you wish you had cameras there to catch the debauchery, but the debauchery wouldn't have happened if you had cameras there.
There's so many stories. Like, I remember this because my friend Keith, who was working the front at the time, said that these, pretty girls pulled up, because we were like in Beverly Hills.
Right.
And pulled up and were trying to come into the club. And they go, well, what is it like there? And he's like, oh, you'll like it. And at that time, Slash fell down the stairs holding a plastic plant with a shirt that said Cathouse Security. Okay? And so it's like, oh, that's what we're about. I've always been a part of the motorcycle community, even before I had a bike. So we would always so I said, look, we're going to let people with Harleys park in front of the club, and they'll get in free early. And the only reason I did that is I had this vision that people would show up at this club and see all these bikers outside, and that would give you an idea of what's going on inside. And it was, I hate to pat myself on the back for it, but it was brilliant because it worked. Pretty soon we'd have like 30, 40 bikes, and everybody's like, what the hell's going on there? Instead of writing a stupid spotlight in the sky, you drive by, you see a bunch of really hot-looking women and a bunch of bikers. It's like, what the hell's going on in there?
Right. Rock and roll.
And so that's how it worked.
Yeah.
And I'll just be real quick on basically speeding up. So I've got a rock and roll dance club. It's doing really well. And Axel says, hey, we've got this EP coming out. Can we do like a record release party at the Cathouse? I'm like, okay. He's like, well, he goes, what if we like play acoustic? I was like, this was before MTV Unplugged.
Right.
He's like, what if we play acoustic? I was like, so you're just going to come and just do the show with like acoustic guitars? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then so a bunch of, hey, can we play? So the first night we had Guns N' Roses, Faster Pussycat, LA Guns, and Jet Boy, who were like the biggest LA bands of that era, Jet Boy San Francisco, all playing acoustic. And everybody's just like kind of having fun. And it ended up being really cool. And there were like I think 400 or 500 people there that night, which was like wow.
Yeah.
So then Faster Pussycat decided, Tammy's like, I want to do our record release party at the Cathouse. And they had 600 people. And they said, or somebody in the band said, we had more people than we're going to be bigger than Guns N' Roses. We had 100 more people than they did.
Right?
Well, then all of a sudden things started changing, and people were like, well, who's going to play next? And that's what I didn't want. I didn't want it to be who's going to play at the Cathouse. It's like, oh, I'm not going to go this Tuesday because nobody's playing. I wanted people to go there and be shocked on what's happening. It was always so dirt cheap to get in. So then the building was pretty much dilapidated. I mean, people would walk in and their foot would fall through the stairs. Oof. And this is the honest truth. It was just a falling apart building. So the building got condemned.
Yeah.
And I had to find a new place. So I wanted a club that nobody had ever been to. And I found this, I think it was like me and Izzy found it. And it was a gay disco that was like a hardcore gay. Like I'd never been in there on a Saturday night, but like, shit went down.
And I bet you they kept it pretty nice.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Go to a club that the gay people, because let me tell you something. You want to live in the gay communities. You want to go to the gay clubs because they take care of their stuff.
Yeah, they really do.
It's all clean. Like I was in, the first time I rode through Philadelphia, and I'd never been to Philadelphia by myself, and I'm walking around, I'm like, like all the restaurants are really, really good, and everybody's cool, and everything was clean. I'm like, this isn't what I thought Philadelphia would be. And they're like, well, you're in the gay community. I'm like, well, that explains it. That explains it. They take care of their stuff. That's not a bad stereotype. That's a good stereotype.
Not at
right?
all. Not at all.
That's okay. So, anyways, so I found this club. Actually, that club was gnarly. The more I'm thinking about it, no. I mean, it was the amyl nitrate and the who knows.
Oh,
so I said, can I take it on a Tuesday night? So I started doing it, and then like a couple bands started playing, and then, because it was very secretive who would play, everybody wanted to play. And I had every band from Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Guns N' Roses was pretty much our house band. All the LA bands that started making it big kept on playing there. But it was like White Zombie, Megadeth, Motorhead. I had Alice Cooper on Halloween play the Cathouse. So it was just, it became the best rock and roll club in the world. And because I had this no press, no cameras allowed, a lot of the stuff wasn't known. So even though we still are selling T-shirts worldwide at cathousehollywood.com, it still maybe never got the notoriety that CBGB's did. But the fact that we've been closed many years and people still know about the Cathouse is still pretty flattering. I mean, when people say, what are you most proud of all the things that you've done in your career? It'd be the Cathouse.
I mean, the Cathouse is it's not only a rock legend, but it's a point in the history of that music, and because you had the vision to make it what it was, and like you said, not just go after that brass ring, or be like, I'm gonna try for all this big stuff and big spotlights and all that stuff. You made it something that was echelon of rock and roll, and it will always be remembered in when you're talking about that timeline of that.
And when
music.
people say like, was it really as decadent and like raunchy as people think it was? You hear these stories. Was it real? Like, oh yeah, it was.
probably worse.
Obviously, Tammy was a big part of getting all those girls in there early,
Right.
because he probably slept with every one of them,
Yeah.
probably.
Hey.
And but there were some beautiful, and then it became so crazy because the girls started showing up, and I know that sounds so cheesy when I say it, but this is what was going on. That Women's Wear Daily, Sportswear International, and California Apparel News, big industry fashion magazines, came to the Cathouse to talk about the fashion because women would dress down. And the beauty of the Cathouse, which I just is, we were never degrading to the women. The women had the power. They could dress however they wanted.
Right.
And pretty soon there were secretaries that were wearing like lingerie, and they're like, hey, let's go to the Cathouse. We'll all dress up really sleazy. And, we'll go out and we'll have fun, and then we'll go back home and put on our normal clothes and go to our very sophisticated jobs, because this is the place that you could let loose and do whatever you wanted.
Yeah, it was a
and-
release.
and-
It was an escape.
the late 80s and the early 90s even, that part of women's fashion became chic. It became like the upscale sleaze in a sense, like the rocker girl, like you said, like the secretary that goes out in her lingerie kind of idea. Like that became like the big thing. So it only makes sense that they're coming to you to get their finger on that.
We'd have Michelle Pfeiffer and Cher in the DJ booth sometimes. And I remember one time, and I mean, I had my own office on Hollywood Boulevard called Rachtman Entertainment. I opened another club called Bordel. And I remember one day walking down the street, and there was a magazine called Beverly Hills 213. And it was like the trendiest, it would be like a Kardashian magazine if there was one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was opening it up, and it said what's hot and what's not.
Yeah.
And it said that there was a club called Vertigo. It said Vertigo is not hot. What is hot? Cathouse. And I said, I'm done.
There you
And that
go.
was it. I said, we're now hot. We're now like the popular club.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, close the doors.
Yep.
So fast forward a little bit, you've made friends with a lot of these bands that are like just starting out, and then MTV is really kind of ramping up and starting to finally figure out their voice, after being on the air for about a decade, and they're playing a lot of these bands like Guns that are coming up and becoming very popular. How did you start getting involved with MTV at that time? Like, was that just kind of organically through the
No.
bands, or?
I've told the story so many times. I feel like sometimes just changing it to make up a better story.
Yeah,
Do
just
it.
make
But
up
no,
a
I'm
story.
into it.
I think
Change
the
it.
truth is so much better than anything I could make up. The truth is, Axl Rose helped me get that job.
That's
And
what I've heard.
He called up MTV, and they set it up, and he's like, hey, you're going to get an audition. And his manager, Doug Goldstein, was a very big part of it. And they called the president of MTV, Abby Konowich, and I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. And he's like, look, I'll go to New York with you when you go audition. And I had to get a business class. I couldn't afford a first class,
Right.
but I flew business. I never flew business before. So me and Axl flew to New York. He took care of the hotel and everything, and I went into audition, and they're like, oh, here comes Axl's friends. Axl set up the audition, and I sucked. I was so terrible because I had no experience on TV.
It's
And,
Do you think
beast.
your radio or your DJing experience helped
I
you
was
with
a
that?
DJ, not a talk like, hey, I was playing music and worried about mixing hip-hop, and I was playing, like...
So you
like a
weren't
lot of-
like talking to the crowd, getting them
Never.
pumped?
No, I hate those guys. Not like, hey, it's a drink special. It was not that at all.
Please
It was
welcome
not
to the
that at all.
stage.
I'd never had any job in front of the public, and it was quite obvious for the first couple of years on Headbangers Ball. So, who helped. I got that job because Axl hooked me up. There's not a doubt about it. But so that's how I got my foot in the door. I mean, people knew me because it was Riki Rachtman from the Cathouse. Oh,
Right.
you want
Yeah.
Riki Rachtman as a Cathouse to be a guest on the show, or do you want? So I started getting notoriety just from being a guy that started, like Peter Rebell, who started Studio 54, was getting notoriety. I was getting notoriety for the Cathouse, and I mean, I was putting every shirt said Riki Rachtman's world famous Cathouse, so I was
Right.
doing my best to
Yeah.
help pour my name out, and as it just got bigger, and then the Metal Years did a piece on the club,
Yeah.
and then MTV started, and then because I was on MTV and had the Cathouse, then all of a sudden you've got Stone Temple Pilots wanting to play the Cathouse, and
Right.
you've got all these other bands that really want to play the Cathouse because it's owned by the host of MTV. I'm stepping on your cord. and
No,
moving
you're
the
good.
mic.
That's
No, you're
fine.
good.
And I'm moving. I keep on moving, and then your mic comes closer. That's why I'm doing that on purpose.
So, I mean, as someone who grew up with the MTV generation, like, I mean, I watched Headbangers Ball when they were trying to figure out what MTV was really trying to figure out what they were going to do with that show. And they passed it around to some of the VJs that were on there. But it wasn't until when you actually got that gig that the show actually found its own voice. And I think that had a lot to do with it. You were friends with a lot of these guys already. So you were.
Which also sucked because, I mean, because I got a lot of criticism. And some of it was very well deserved. Like I never watched Headbangers Ball because it was Saturday night and I was going out on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what I was doing was making an impact because I was the guy from the and it's still very, very surreal to me. Like when people talk about MTV VJs, I was like, oh, I was an MTV.
You were
like
one of
I don't
those.
think of I'm just like Ricky, you know?
Yeah, right.
And it was very, very bizarre what was happening with the show and with me, and I don't remember what the question was.
It was just I was actually just building you up on it because because I just felt like it was easier for you to be able to talk to your friends.
So one of the problems that people that I would get criticized for that was very well deserved was that people would say, he says every band is his friend. Okay, now that kind of was stupid, but the problem was the people that I said were my friends really were my friends. I mean, I don't like to. I know it sounds like I'm name dropping when I'm saying that I did, a bunch of states on my West Coast ride, and I rode with Chris Cale from Five Finger Death Punch. But if it was my friend Joe, I would say, and I rode with my friend Joe.
Right.
It just says that I just happened to ride with Chris Cale of Five Finger Death Punch, or
Right.
Billy Duffy from The Cult, or Gilby Clarke when Guns N' Roses, or Tammy, or Parker from Queensryche. I mean, I know that those always sound like I'm just name dropping, but those are the guys that I know.
Yeah.
And if I'm riding with my friend Bob, then I'll say I'm riding with my friend Bob. I would say that, but it just so happened that the people that I'm riding with are my friends. When
Right.
I ride to Virginia, if I stop at my friend's house, and I'm stopping for lunch because it's my only friend in Virginia, but he just happens to also be the guitarist of Lamb of God. It's just, I know it, like right now, you guys are watching going, God, would he shut up with the name dropping? And it sounds like that, and I understand that, but those people are my friends. They really are my friends. Now, the other criticism that I got a lot was saying that every band was my favorite band. I didn't say that about every band. There were bands like Suicidal and Danzig and London Choir Boys and bands like that I would say were my favorite bands because I did have a lot of favorite bands. But the number one reason that I said that is I was also playing so much shit on Headbangers Ball.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I'm going into a band like, and this isn't an insult to the bands in any way, shape, or form, but people know that I'm not a big fan of all those bands like the Steelheart and the Firehouses. This isn't a
Right.
dig on them. I don't know those guys.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like that stuff. It's just not my stuff. There's
Yeah.
people that like mayonnaise. I hate mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Okay? But when I was doing those videos that I don't believe should have been on Headbangers Ball, so when all of a sudden I'm going to be introducing something from a really heavy band that I like,
You're pumped
I'm
up
like,
for
oh,
it.
I love this band. This
Yeah.
band's like one of my favorite bands. And it's like, there he goes again. Well, I can't say, I hate this band. This band's a piece of shit because I'd get fired. And I had a job and I liked my job. They paid me good money just to sit on there.
Who was your favorite band? Like if you were to
Other
name,
than
like,
bands
one.
that like I can't say the Guns N' Roses and Faster Pussycats, but the bands that I love Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah, so good.
I was really a big fan of Danzig. Despite the stuff that happened with me and Dave Mustaine, I really liked Megadeth a lot. Still have love for Metallica, but back then, and the thing that when I grew up, I was listening to punk rock. I was listening to the punk rock from Los Angeles and Orange County. So for me to say, when I did an article in Spin and I said, when I was a kid, I knew more about Black Flag than Black Sabbath. Oh, why the hell is he doing the Headbangers Ball? I'm like, look, it's all heavy stuff. It's all fast and loud. It's all the same. People don't understand that Motorhead to me, which was such an important band in my youth, was great because I thought Motorhead was punk rock.
I still
I
think
didn't know that
Motorhead is
Motorhead
I would
was
put
punk
them
rock.
in that
Yeah.
area for sure.
And I love Motorhead, always loved Motorhead, always loved working with Lemmy. And so those were the bands that I really, really liked when I was doing Headbangers Ball. And I was exposed to a lot of bands that's like, hey, here's this band. And if they were jerks, I'm not even listening to their CD. And if they were cool, it's like, okay, I'm going to listen to their band. And there's, but on the same token, when I say that about the hair type bands, I always loved Cinderella and I always loved Skid Row.
Yeah.
Because those are just heavy rock bands.
There's
you know?
a place in my heart for Skid Row.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember seeing when Skid Row opened up for Guns N' Roses, and I was standing next to Kerry King of Slayer, and they came out with Slave to the Grind, and Kerry's like, dude, that band's heavy. I'm like, they are.
Yeah, they are.
You know, Sebastian was just like one of the ultimate frontman.
Oh, totally.
And I still, you know, and whenever I'd hear a Rat song, I'd like Rat. So I'm not putting down that whole genre of music at all.
Right.
But there are bands that came in that era that I was not a fan of. But that's not to say they didn't belong. I mean, if you were a band that was played in the daytime, you shouldn't have been played on Headbangers Ball. Meaning, even though Alice in Chains were played in the daytime, let's play a different Alice in Chains video because obviously they were such an important part of Headbangers Ball.
Oh, totally.
How do you feel about the whole grunge movement in general?
It was rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, Nirvana did not kill your scene. If your scene is killed by a bunch of these guys in Seattle, then your scene sucks.
Damn right.
If your band isn't selling records because of Nirvana, then that's your band's problem because Motley Crue is still selling records.
sure were.
And Guns N' Roses were still selling records. And a lot of bands were still selling records. Yes, did we move to a more toned down, dirty, grungy, I hate using the word grunge, but that grimy kind of feel?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. But you know, your band would have probably died otherwise.
Totally.
I bought Nirvana Bleach, and I used to crank it up, and because I was like, Negative Creep was like, I'm a negative creep. That was such a heavy song,
Such
you
a
know?
heavy song.
And I love Nirvana. And if you're, I mean, Soundgarden of that grunge era were Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know,
Yep.
so for people that put down, and I'm such in the minority when I say that about that music scene, but it was all rock and roll to me. You know, we had Bad Religion on Headbangers Ball. We had the Ramones on Headbangers Ball. You know, I was wearing Pennywise shirts on Headbangers Ball as much as I was wearing, you know, Motorhead, because it was all just heavy and loud. You know, I like to go to a lot of festivals because I like to see some newer bands, and I like to see just fast, loud, heavy, good stuff.
How do you
know?
feel about music now?
I like a lot of the bands that are playing out there now. I'm going to be at Chicago Open Air Festival.
Nice.
I go to Carolina Rebellion. I went to Welcome to Rockville, which are great festivals because we'll get some older bands and some newer bands, and I'll get to see bands, you know, like I never saw Avenged Sevenfold, and when I heard Avenged Sevenfold, I'm like, everybody's like, oh, they're this kind of poppy. I'm like, they're Iron Maiden, they're Dio, and there's a lot of Guns N' Roses in Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I was excited to go see Avenged Sevenfold. I was like, okay, right on. You know,
They put on a
There's
show, too.
You know,
Yeah.
I was excited. You know, many years ago, the first time I saw Volbeat.
Yeah.
You know, because when I heard the first Volbeat record, I heard a lot of rockabilly in it, and I
Yeah.
heard more influences from like rockabilly or Social Distortion
Elvis.
and Metallica and Elvis.
Elvis, totally.
So I was like interested in that. So there's a lot of new bands that I like music. You know, I like the band King with a Y.
Yep.
I like
Yeah.
them a real lot. They're
Just saw
good-
them. They were awesome, man.
They're just a good rock
I think,
band.
I think they just played. Was it the Zach Sabbath show
Yeah,
that they were at?
yeah.
Them. It was King, Zach Sabbath, and Clutch. Right. And that was.
I saw
killer
Clutch
show.
recently again, and they're great.
Dude, they're
constantly
so good.
good.
I just like music, and I'll tell you a band that blew me away the last time I saw him was Papa Roach. And if you haven't seen Papa
Really?
Roach, don't go in there with your closed mind. Go watch Papa Roach, and I'm telling you, Jacoby brings it. And it's, you know, and I hate to call them a new band because they're not a new band.
Yeah.
You know, but the one band that you will see me at almost every show that people know I'm just like the biggest hardcore dork fan for is Slipknot. I am a dork Slipknot
Nice.
fan. I have always gone to see Slipknot.
Talk
I mean,
about a show.
Yeah.
Holy
but it's like
shit.
that's the show. Like I'll go see Slipknot, and that's the show that I'll go to, and I feel kind of old because you know
There's
it's
a
like
younger
Corey's
crowd,
always
yeah.
up there
Yeah.
like, you know, fuck this and fuck that, you know, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, but Corey's brilliant.
Yeah.
I
What a
love
front
Corey.
man. What a front
so
man.
great, and I get to believe it or not, I've never seen Stone Sour, and I'm going to see them in Chicago.
Excellent.
On my
Yeah.
ride, so
Excellent.
I'm a big Stone Sour, you know, Slipknot fan, but I also listen. I mean, the punk rock we have now is the outlaw country scene. That's what's punk rock.
Yes.
You know, that's which I've been into for a long. I mean, on the second episode of Headbangers Ball, I was wearing a Hank Williams shirt. Nobody gave me shit for that. They didn't think
Good.
about it. You know, but I like to see a lot of those bands too. I just like music. You know, when I'm riding.
yes.
I'm listening to everything. There's a time in the morning when I don't want to listen to Lamb of God and I want to listen to Shooter Jennings or listen to Williams.
Nice.
And sometimes when I ride, I really like to hear one song from The Who, which is Rain Over Me, is the best morning ride. I'm not a big Who fan, but that
Yeah.
starts my ride. That's such a great song to start.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're going through the Blue Ridge Parkway, you don't want to be listening to Slayer or Megadeth. There's certain songs like wine. There's certain foods that go better with a certain type of wine. To me,
Yeah.
there's a certain type of music. When I'm riding in the city, I want to listen to Hatebreed.
Right.
And if I'm riding through the mountains, I don't want to listen. And sometimes I don't listen to any music at all.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of riding, you are
We don't have any time on this show left, do we? I've talked the whole time about
no,
my
we're good.
past.
No,
We're good as gold.
We like you are currently on Ricky's Ride, which you're touring all 48 states, and I think you should try for Alaska. But I mean, good luck on that one.
There's a boat. There's
There's
a
a
boat
boat.
that goes from Seattle to Alaska. You could ride your motorcycle on that and make it 49
That
states.
doesn't really count.
It does not.
I was on a ferry this ride because everybody on Twitter suggested me take the ferry from Delaware to New Jersey.
Okay.
Which I rode through there anyway, so
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
like I'm skipping states.
Right.
The whole plan was because I've gone coast to coast 7 times, Mexico and Canada 3 times on a motorcycle.
Wow.
Without a camera crew, without a producer,
Yep.
without a trailer,
Yep.
without anything. I go usually, I've ridden coast to coast with Tammy Down plenty of times, and there's nothing that I love more than riding with Tammy. I've ridden to Sturgis so many times with Gilby, and those are my favorite things, but I'm riding a lot by myself. Sometimes I've ridden coast to coast, and Tammy's riding coast to coast, and we'll just hook up.
Oh,
in
that's
places.
awesome.
Wow.
And that's like my brother.
That is
That
so
if there's
cool.
anybody that's my brother, we love each other, we hate each other, but Tammy's a very, very important part of my life. But lately I just get in these zones where I just go ride and ride and ride. So because I've done so much riding, I said, okay, I got to hit Alaska. I've never ridden to Alaska. Well, then I found out that there's a lot of gravel. I'm really bad in gravel. And when I'm in gravel, I go really, really slow.
Oh.
I've also heard there's moose that chase you.
Oh no.
Okay. So it would be so perfect for Riki Rachtman to go out being killed by a moose.
Oh my God.
I mean, because how
I feel
does
like
any
I'd almost want to go
how
out
does
that
anybody
way. That's
say,
awesome.
and we, Riki Rachtman, he was great and he did this ride and finally he was killed by a moose and I'm like, really?
And finally, he was
Really?
killed by a moose.
And it's great, but I just didn't want to go yet.
Right.
And the thing is I think it should be an adjective, it should be called Trump tweet. And what I do is I'll sometimes put something on Twitter without even thinking what I'm putting out there, and then I have to follow through with the repercussions of what I just did. So what I did is I just would put on Twitter at Riki Rachtman, I'd put like, this summer God, I'm sorry, I spit.
You're good.
This summer I'm going to do all 48 states. Tweet. And then I'm like,
Uh-oh.
Shit.
all 48 states, and I can't trailer it anywhere. But the truth is, with the amount of riding that I do, to me, there's a couple things. America is very small. I don't look at if I'm going to go 300 miles out of the way to go to this place, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that. I don't even think about it. And the other thing that is the most important thing is America is great. America was great. And when I see it, there's parts of America in every single state that are so incredible. And the people, when I go to gas stations, somebody sees this guy with all these bags on and they just talk to me. And they don't know who I am usually. And sometimes they do. And when people, when I pulled up to Death Wish today, there were 2 people that met me. Death Wish Coffee and Riki Rachtman. Yes, I'm talking about myself in third person, which I learned from Richard Petty. Riki Rachtman has a lot of the same, and I hate using the word fans. I never use the word fans, but I'm just going to say has the same fan base as Death Wish Coffee. We're very interchangeable.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that have learned about me through Death Wish, and I know for a fact there's a lot of people that are drinking Death Wish because of me.
Definitely.
Definitely. And so for me to say, come see me at Death Wish, and there's 2 people outside, and I'm like, hey, they came to see me. And they go, oh, of course we came to see you. And we also pick up our coffee here.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll still say you came to see me. But I love meeting people. And that's why if you see me somewhere, I'm not going to have an entourage. If I come to, if I had a bunch of people with me making sure everything was okay, it'd be
Right.
like, oh my God, there's Riki Rachtman. But if you pull into a gas station because I'm going to stop at that gas station and I'm there, instead of freaking out, you might just be like, hey, Riki, what's happening? I'm like,
Right.
hey, how are you?
Yeah.
And we'll talk. I got a tweet that somebody was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire the other day, and they posted a picture. They go, "Look, that head in the background is Riki Rachtman, rock legend or whatever." I'm like, dude,
Just come up
please come up and talk to me because I hate. Don't sit down and eat with me.
That sounds like it's happened a couple
Please
times.
come down and talk to me because I'm eating and doing a lot of stuff by myself. I'm
Yeah.
by myself so much that when people come up and talk to me, I really, really like it. So I like meeting people and doing all that stuff. So when you see me on the road, so about the ride really quickly. So I do these motorcycle rides every year.
Yeah.
About 3 or 4 years ago, I got involved with Death Wish Coffee we started sponsoring me,
Yep.
and I started, plugging Death Wish, which is just such I work with Law Tigers, I work with Hot Leathers, and Death Wish Coffee, and these are the perfect people because they're all good people. I believe in what they do, and I drink a hell of a lot of Death Wish, and I've always drinking Death Wish, and I mean, for me to say like. Every morning for the past 5 years has started with Death Wish Coffee, and I've bought Death Wish Coffee even recently because John didn't get me my package in time, so I just bought it. I don't care. I don't mind buying stuff,
What?
So basically, I ride my motorcycle, and this year I'm riding in every single state. People can go on Twitter or Instagram or even the Facebook and say, tell Ricky where to go. Say, dude, you got to stop by the Evel Knievel Museum in Topeka, Kansas. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I do.
Yes, I do.
Or you got to take the ferry. Or stop here and have lunch. Or, hey, we have a little bar. Why don't you come by the bar? And I do all that, and people really get involved with my ride, and they meet me. I'll give them a patch. And I started saying, you know what? Well, I'm doing this ride. I will never start a GoFundMe account for my ride.
Right.
Hey, everybody, give me $20 to pay for my gas and hotel.
Right.
These rides cost around $20,000.
Yeah.
And that's with staying in crap hotels
Yeah.
and eating at shit places. So thank God for companies like Death Wish Coffee and Hot Leathers and Law Tigers that do help me on these rides because I cannot afford to do this by myself.
Right.
And I was at a NASCAR race in Dover, and they're like, hey, let me give you $100 for gas. I'm like, I'd prefer if you give to the charity, which is the Claire Wineland Foundation.
Yes.
And instead of giving me money, I like to pick a charity that if you want to help out. And the reason that I'm raising money for Claire's foundation, and I know that now, through me, Death Wish Coffee's also become very involved with Claire, who we just love Claire Wineland.
Love Claire.
Amazing.
And the reason that I'm raising money for her foundation is pure ego. It makes me feel good
Nice.
to see that we're almost up to 5,000.
Yes.
It will make me feel good when I finish the ride that we're going to be over 10 grand.
Yeah.
So it's pure ego. Don't think I'm this nice guy doing this thing. I'm not. It makes me feel good, and it's all about me, Riki Rachtman. Now, this is what Claire Wineland does. Claire Wineland is this beautiful girl that's got cystic fibrosis. Claire Wineland does not have an attitude like, woe is me, I'm in the hospital, I might die. What was it? She has got the greatest attitude that you guys ended up learning about.
Oh, totally.
She's got the
privilege.
greatest attitude. So I found out about Claire just looking for charities where if I give them $1, $1 goes to the charity. I'm not going to talk bad about Susan J. Coleman, or I'm not going to talk bad about any of these charities, but we're in a weird point like, hey, this charity just gave $5 million to breast cancer research. That is brilliant. $5 million. And I'm sure it's a lot more than that. Okay, they also made money.
Yeah.
Right.
And they also have high administration fees.
Right.
I want to find a
How much
charity.
do the people running those charities? How much are they making
Right.
off that
Yeah.
charity?
Yeah.
That's
I can
always
just tell
scary.
you that there is not one penny that is given to gas, that is given to hotels. I wish there was sometimes that if you give money through rickysride.com, RIKISRIDE.com, if you give money to rickysride.com, it's going to go to Claire. Now, the money that Claire gets, $1 given to the charity goes to Claire. Now, the money does not go to find a cure for cystic fibrosis. It does not give any money to research cystic fibrosis. It does not give any money to raise awareness for cystic fibrosis. By tweeting, I believe I'm raising awareness.
Yes.
What she does with that money is she goes to help kids and help families that are dealing with cystic fibrosis. It is very expensive to be on these machines.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to live that way. So, there was a lady that was on Skid Row that couldn't afford to get the deposit for an apartment because she spent so much money on the machines and stuff like this. So Claire's foundation helped with the deposit for her apartment.
Yeah.
She does stuff like that. So I love Claire. I know that you guys are now also very involved in it. We're a big family. We really are a big family here.
Claire's amazing. If everybody who is listening or watching this has not heard it, go on over to our episode with Claire. I believe it was episode 26.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was absolutely amazing to
if you ever want to learn how to be like, I don't know, a real man, I would listen to Claire because, man, I learned so much just from listening
attitude.
to her YouTube videos.
Yeah.
What's the Clarity Project
Yep.
on YouTube
Yep.
about how to approach death and how to live life.
Well, what happened was I was in Los Angeles, and I decided I was going to go visit Claire in the hospital. So I get on my motorcycle, and it was 4 o'clock. In L.A., the traffic, one of the reasons I moved was because of the L.A. traffic. It's just so ridiculous. So it's going to take me like 2.5 hours to get to the hospital where she's at. And I pulled over, and I'm like, it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to go in rush hour. Then I'm like, Claire's in the hospital.
Right.
Not bitching about anything. And I'm being such a bitch about traffic. And I'm like, get on your fucking bike, Ricky, and go ride a visitor.
Yeah.
Stop complaining. And I did. And we didn't talk about cystic fibrosis. We didn't talk about it. We just kind of hung out. And I like her as a person. And if she didn't have cystic fibrosis, she'd still be a friend. And her mom is great and everything like that. So what she is dealing with stuff that's more difficult than the stuff that we are all dealing with right now.
Yeah.
But she does not let that bring her down. And it's not like, hi, everybody. It's about rainbows and flowers. Claire's a normal girl, and she swears. And, now that she is out of the hospital, she's learning to deal with the hard things like, holy shit, I got to pay rent now, and I got to pay this.
Yeah.
And so Ricky's Ride is raising money for her. We've got an incredible guitar that we're going to be auctioning off eventually. It's Ron's Guitars, who's this incredible guitar painter, and PRS gave us a guitar. I've already got Volbeat and Papa Roach to sign it. I'm probably going to get some more people to sign it. Try to get Zach to sign it in Chicago.
Awesome.
And then we're going to auction it off and give all the money to Claire's foundation. And at the end of this ride, I really hope to raise $10,000, and that's going to help. And basically, I'm riding to raise money, and I'm riding because I really like to ride and I like to meet people, and it's the best thing. It's my favorite thing to do.
It's a win-win.
That's awesome. So finally, we always ask our guests this question.
I'm so freaking hungry right now. I'm like shaking because all I've done is drink coffee this morning.
We'll get that.
You don't have any food here, do you?
I think we do.
Do my Death Wish donuts?
We have coffee, chocolate.
We have coffee.
Oh,
chocolate.
that's what I need more. By the way, the coffee chocolate, it's funny that I don't get sent that much coffee chocolate anymore because that stuff is so good. It was like this cherry bark. That's not going to be my breakfast today.
Might be. So just to wrap it up then, the one
Let's ask me some questions that have nothing to do with, that talk about random stuff.
Random stuff? Well, the one question we ask everybody.
What's your favorite cheese?
I like it. That's a stupid question.
You're the one who wanted
Sometimes
it.
if you rub your earlobes and you smell your fingers, it'll smell like Cheetos.
Oh.
Yeah, or maybe it's me because I'm dirty.
That motorcycle grime.
Yeah.
All the stuff you do, all the stuff you've done in your life, we always like to find out this from everybody we talk to. What fuels you to keep going? What fuels you to keep, doing a ride, going out there, what fuels you to continue to be Riki Rachtman?
One of the things that fuels me to keep on doing the things I do with work is I have always had an incredible fear of being broke. And I did go broke. I once had an incident when I was doing talk radio. I was making like $300,000 a year, and I beat up a DJ and went broke. Like not MC Hammer broke in a mansion, flat broke in a house with my power turned off. And people will tell you never, ever, 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 ever give up. And that's true. If you want to be a musician, if you want to be an actor, if you want to be this, never, ever, ever give up. Now, here's the reality of never give up. Most of you will not succeed at that. So never give up, but have a backup plan. I could say I'm going to wait and be a VJ or a radio host or this like that, but I needed to get some money, so I was a car salesman.
Yeah.
And I sucked, and I was selling Volkswagens with a suit and tie in Huntington Beach, and people go up, are you like the guy from Headbangers Ball? And I'm like, yeah, let me show you this Jetta. It was so damn humiliating that I had to do that for like a year. And I never gave up, but I still got to pay bills.
Yeah.
For all you people that are, people say never give up, pursue your dreams. Look, I'm proof positive that your dreams will come true, but also you have to do some shit work in the meantime.
Yeah.
Never always have a backup plan. It's not a healthy feeling that I have about that fear that I don't enjoy stuff enough because I'm always scared of being broke. But what motivates me is I just don't ever stop. I don't ever want to be status quo. I don't want to ever be that guy. I mean, when people say stuff about me on being Headbangers Ball, I'm not the greatest getting compliments. When I just did TMZ about Kurt Cornell and they put me as like rock legend, I was like, dude, rock legend? I mean, I introduced some videos. I had a club. I just don't want to stop. I mean, my mind works better. As soon as the Cathouse 30th was done, I was working on doing this ride. And as soon as the ride's done, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have to always keep moving forward. And that, I think, will stop you from becoming old.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have a fear of becoming stagnant. And that's why I never, ever stop. And I really don't think I've done anything yet. I don't know what my main goal is. I don't know what I want to be doing in 2 years from now. You know, I'm blessed that I have a very successful radio show called Racing Rocks.
Yes.
That I get to talk about NASCAR and play rock and roll, and I'm very lucky for that and happy. But that's my income. I mean, I don't make a penny. I lose a lot of money on these rides. But that's not what it's all about. This keeps me sane. You know, I know my family misses me very, very much when I go. And I know that, you know, Christy and Chloe are going nuts at home thinking about, you know, is he going to be okay today? Is he going to be okay today? And that's really tough on them. And I know that it's tough on them. And it's very selfish what I do. But I have to do this. I have to do these rides. This is who I am. Well, you know, this is who I am. So I don't know what keeps. I just never, ever stopped. I can't rest. I don't know what happens.
And you never should. And you never should.
I'd like to one day.
And well, that's awesome. Just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and to talk to us. You've said it before, but I'll say it again. Go to rickysride.com. You can follow you doing all that through your entire ride. And you're also, I believe, just Riki Rachtman on all social media, right?
I am RIKIRACHTMAN. I should have thought of something else so it'd be easier to search.
Like, that's easy.
By the way, dude, this shirt.
Yes,
I know, right?
Yes, I love
First
this
thing
shirt.
that I noticed.
Three wolves in a moon.
I am very well aware that my hair is growing out, and it always looks like crap. So it's parting in the middle. So it's like kind of like Mo from the Three Stooges. And I realize that, but I'm just not going to cut it anymore. And I love my wolf shirt.
Yes.
That's all I really have to say.
Fueled
That's
by a
all
wolf
I have
shirt.
to say.
Awesome.
And I really hope there's some heat because I'm really sweating right now. And all I've been drinking, like I drink Death Wish coffee every day, but I don't think I just drink 3 cups nonstop drinking. And it doesn't get fresher than it gets right now. And I'm not even, look, I'm shaking. Like I'm literally shaking.
We're gonna
right
make
now.
that happen. We're gonna
By
make
giving
that
me chocolate with Death Wish coffee in it.
It has pretzels in it too, I think.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a rounded meal to me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, guys.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.